Have you gone blonde on us, Marnie?
No, I think that's gray. Or the absence of color.
I was trying to be nice.
Still has some color, but the front is.
Tom, be
I
nice.
said it was blonde.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
It's a form of blonde.
Exactly.
You wear it very well.
Blonde.
You're variegated now.
Variegated. Nice.
Yeah, I think.
And you just went up in value like 50% because you're very.
That's actually it. I've gotten
Wow.
into neophonetias recently, so I'm aware of the increase in value on things. It's interesting.
All right.
I'm just as variegated. I just cover it. Roberta, there's a Medusa about to attack you.
I like it.
It's got tentacles in your hair.
I think especially to photograph, I think it's one of my total favorites. Like I just can't get enough pictures of it.
But Roberta, word to the wise, don't turn around and look at it or you'll turn to stone.
I must be immune because actually it's blooming its little head off right now.
Yeah, mine didn't emerge. I must have rotted it.
Is it? It's
Oh my God, John
area
Jakey is here.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're in this. You know you're in this program, John. You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk. You're muted, dude.
Okay.
Does everyone know John Davy from Mauritius?
No.
No.
Welcome.
Yeah, he's part of the reason
Tom,
Talk exists. There he is.
Tom came to see us last year, and I'm just waking up and just about to go to work. So I'll just join you, but it's a nice time frame for me. It's now 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
I've got my my coffee with me. I've got a friend who thinks I look like Mr. Bean.
Yeah. Mr. Bean, the coffee bean, huh?
So John, while I have you, I almost texted you today because I cannot find the name of that scruffy-looking palm from Katran, and it's in this program, so I'd like to be able to tell people the name.
Okay, I'll get Louis to send it to you.
Okay, he did already, but I just can't find the email with the name, and I didn't write it down, and
Okay.
I'm absolutely losing it. I'm like, senility cannot be far behind. Plus the whole deal with the COVID-19 has us all doing really, I don't know. I feel like I've lost like 10% of my IQ since this all began.
Okay.
But it's
we
all,
don't have any in the country at all at the moment.
nothing
we've got
in
nothing
Norris.
here.
Nothing.
Nothing. We haven't had any. We're getting people coming in, and they're in quarantine for 2 weeks when they get off the plane.
That's what
There's
we
some
do
people
in
who've had it in quarantine, but in the country itself, we're 1 million people here, and we've got nothing here. So we're.
You should be proud.
Yeah, I
you're-
don't know how long it's going to last.
You're very lucky. I heard that you had a few cases, but I guess they're all done. Did you have any fatalities?
We had 10.
What's that?
What kind of bird is that?
Hello, that's my phone.
Oh,
Hello.
you better mute yourself, John.
Okay, well, they're still trickling in here. Let's see. Where are we at? We're at only 41. That's pretty good. And I see Lynn is here, who'll be running the show and tell today, so that's good. Just give it another minute and let the rest of the people log in.
Hey,
So,
Jeff,
Lynn,
it's
did you get
Tanya.
done?
Hi, Tanya.
I didn't get a chance to send you the show and tell. Can I share my screen later if I'm allowed?
Sure.
For 3 photos. I promise. I
Okay,
have more than 3, but I will show 3.
thank you. It's a good problem to have. We have so many people sending show and tell things that we tried to limit it to 3 just to get through them all. But
Understood.
You just have to learn to talk fast.
Well, not only that, to be able to put them into a document or into a PowerPoint, it takes time.
yeah.
I just put them as JPEGs and just flip through them. Flip, flip,
Well,
flip, flip, flip.
All right. I think so. John, you're on, right? You're good. Let's see.
Yes.
There you are. Okay, so John's co-hosting with me to help manage the muting and the technical things. And I'm going to go ahead and get the meeting started just a few minutes after. So let's see here.
Jeff, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Good. Well, it looks like we've got a good attendance, and almost everybody, well, it looks like everyone RSVP'd, so that's good. Starting with announcements. So since the last meeting, let me move this for a second. We have several new members, many not from the local Bay Area, but Zoom, makes it more possible. Was the theme, I guess. So Nancy's on the call. She's from Ventura. She was with us last time as well. John, who's my co-host and our webmaster, officially became a member. So thank you, John. I'm not sure I think it's Michael or Miguel is on yet, but he joined at a supporting level from Oakland. He's a new member. David Anderson, Sherry Wagner, who's the newsletter editor and webmaster from Santa Cruz, joined us. Tyler Curry from Portland, who's their vice president of the Oregon Orchid Society, and Cecil from, is it Cecil or Cecil? From Fresno. So he joined today, actually, and I snuck it in there. So I guess people know that to win the raffle, you have to be a member or paid up. So that's also seemed to be helping us make sure we're giving people value and they're paying their dues. After I get through the announcements, we'll go to Lynn for show and tell. She helped collate and organize, and we'll run show and tell. And I think most people know that Tom, who's also on, is dialed in from Hilo, Hawaii, and he's going to be giving this talk tonight about his African adventure. And next month, September 1st, the speaker is a student, Jason Miller, who is the recipient of our 2019 educational research grant. He works in Madison, Wisconsin, and is going to be talking about conservation of Cypripedium arietinum, the ram's head orchid. So he's next month's speaker. Quick update for membership for people that remember our embezzling treasurer, Jack Ryder. we're still having every month or two, we have court dates, and we are still getting repayments from the embezzlement. So that proceeds, and just wanted to let people know that we're still on top of that. So every month or so, I connect with the assistant DA here in San Francisco and follow up on that. So the society's recovered almost half of the money he took, and staying on top of that. History profile project. I just wanted to tell people that our librarian and now membership chair, board member, Lauren Iverson, who's on the call, has been working with me on doing member profiles, and she's doing new profiles, so interviewing people and if possible, getting some pictures or new footage. But I'm actually pulling old.
Jeff, before you go any further, the email that was sent out with a link just before before 7 does not work. I went to the last newsletter and clicked on that link. So there may be a lot of other people that were frustrated trying to get in.
That link worked fine for me.
Yeah,
that's
it
how I
worked
got
for
here.
me too.
Okay, it must be my computer, sorry.
No, thanks for letting us know. It's quirky.
Well,
Yeah.
I tried it like 5 times and it all said this site can't be reached.
It's not a problem for me.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know. We'll be on the lookout. I do actually, John, that's why John is co-hosting with me, and so we're trying to manage this. So it's a lot of tech support.
I have to say the emails we're getting look really nice. He's doing a nice job on that.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, well, where was I? So I'm gonna stop for a second. I can see as I broke out of the screen, out of the presentation, now I can see the list of people on the screen. So Tyler is a new member I mentioned. I see he's on, so welcome, Tyler. Do you want to say something or say hello so we can see you? And let's see if I can unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Yes, I am here. I just don't have my camera right now.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And Cecil, is it Cecil or Cecil?
Yeah, Cecil.
Okay, so you were talking before the meeting officially started, but wanted to welcome you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nancy, I saw Nancy.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to be a part of the society.
Welcome. I'm running through the list offhand here. Let's see. Anyone else that's a new member that just joined that wants to say hello and introduce themselves? Okay, and we have several guests, and I won't go through everyone, but there's probably about 10 guests or so or more on the call. So looks like we're at about 54 people calling in, and some are doubled up, so pretty good attendance. All right. All right, I'm going to finish the announcements so we don't waste time for the show and tell. Where is it? Okay. Here. All right, how do I get back? Sorry, guys, I'm still technically getting all this back. There we go. I was in the middle of the page. So historical stuff, I'm trying to actually document and organize information that starts from the founding of San Francisco Orchid Society in the 50s and get all that, or either bits and pieces various folks have collected over the time, but there's some gaps. So hopefully by the end of the year, maybe in December, I might do a little presentation or circulate something with what I put together and put it somewhere where people can get to it. So I'm still working on it. If you have pictures, memorabilia, or want to talk to me, please reach out. I could use interview, just talk on the phone, whatever works. And I want to thank the people that have done that so far. Similarly, volunteering. I mentioned that Lynne stepped up and volunteered to take over the show and tell, which helps me out a lot. And Heidi Arno's been like working on helping Lauren and I out with thinking about how to deal with the library. So if anyone has a little spare time or interest and wants to take on something, we could always use help. There's plenty of things still going on even without the events. The raffle that we do at the end of the meeting. So I'm just going to say it here, even though everyone hasn't maybe won or used them yet. I got a request today from Tony at Tiny Jungle to remind everyone that when you get the gift code, it's for use on their website only, not on their eBay site. And that when you check out, you have to select pick up in the store and write your shipping address as a note or comment there so that he can ship. So otherwise he can't get your shipping address to mail things out. So I send that out with the email to the winners on their own afterwards with the codes, but just wanted to emphasize that because he says several people weren't following instructions. So also we've had some folks do plant sales, and besides putting the book on sale again on the new website, we've sent out email announcements and advertised in the newsletter and on the website itself the list of plants. And I just want to give Tanya and Dave a chance to speak up. Steve Beckendorf also did an OCA benefit sale this past weekend up here, and but that's done for the Bay Area right now. It's going to San Diego, I think. So Tanya, Dave, did you guys want to take a minute and give any updates? Do you still have things for sale? What's happening there?
Yeah, this is Tanya. Thank you so much for letting me put up the list of my divisions for sale. Several members had contacted me, and a couple members had visited me on the weekend. So it's going well. I will send John the new updated list as needed. But thank you. It's great to have instead of orchids in the park, as usual, I still can share some of the divisions with people.
Thanks, Tanya. Dave, you or Sam, did you guys want to say anything?
Most of my plants are gone, but I might have another list sometime later.
Okay. And if anyone else that's a member wants to sell or give away or ask donations for divisions as they work through their plants, let us know, and if it's organized, we can post it and send it out in a bundled email. But it would be best to do it around the 15th to the 20th when we send out the newsletter, if you can organize it that way. Okay, so back to screen share. I keep losing my screen here. Okay. Okay. Plant sales. The sale. So I just wanted to take a second. We're going to discuss it officially at the next board meeting on Monday night to make it official. But we have an opportunity to actually have a San Francisco Orchid Society sponsored event. I'm thinking of it being, it would be down in Pacifica at Shell Dance, where John Leathers and Bob Hamilton and Dan Newman and Joe and Kathy Parker's greenhouses are there. At the top, there's a parking lot, and basically Nancy, the owner of Shell Dance of that leases the property, has agreed to let us use the parking lot for free for a weekend in October, the second half of October. So we're going to nail down the date. And then the idea would be we need people that are like Tanya and Dave here, that, or Steve, that have divisions, like when we do member plant sales for Orchids in the Park or POE, to just organize early. And we need lists with what you think you might have. And we're going to work through how to sell them in advance online. So John, our webmaster, is going to help us do that. And the current idea is that most people should just go up there and park, and then we will bring them to the car with gloves and masks and keep people from walking around, so there's not hundreds of people walking around at tables like a regular member plant sale thing. But there may be some limited opportunity for people that are on a scheduled basis to come and look at things that are out on the table that haven't been claimed, but it will be nowhere near the numbers of what we normally do. So I just wanted to pause and give people a moment to just hear reactions. If there's people either that are interested in potentially selling or donating plants for us to sell at that member plant sale in the end of October, or have other ideas, let me know. And I'll just take a minute in case anyone wants to come off mute and make a comment or suggestion. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going. So where are we here? Okay. Right, and we will be recording the talk tonight, and posting it on our YouTube channel, as we have been doing. There's a page about updates to the website. I think some of these started last month. It's an ongoing process. If you haven't looked, all members can log on with a password and get access to old newsletters and some other content. We're working on building that content. We've also moved away from Member Planet, and we're now going to be using our Weebly Square website for memberships going forward. At some point, definitely by the end of the year when we do renewals, hopefully all by credit card if possible, or by mail-in checks if not, you'll need to approve Square to basically be the way you pay for your membership with a credit card, is the way that's going to be set up. So as people have been joining, John has been asking people to set up that profile, and it's not the Member Planet profile. So just wanted to make that clear. I already talked about the member sales area with the book that's back up, as well as announcements for other things being sold. We're still building out and refining the resource links, etc., the history, conservational, and educational grants. We're still kind of refining that. And I mentioned this plant sale that we're working on, and we welcome, as always, any input, or if people have things to contribute for new content, it's always welcome. So we're not quite ready to announce Tom. Now I'm going to transition to Lynn. So let's see, it's 20 after the hour. Sorry, the announcements took so long. Let's see here. Let me stop sharing. Lynn, I can't hear you.
I just unmuted.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you share your screen?
Give me a clue.
At the bottom, there's a green button. It should say share screen with an
Yeah, and I'm not seeing that. I usually do.
Bottom left, right.
Let me see if I can do something. 1 second. Let me see if I can make you a co-host. Maybe that'll help.
If you're in full screen, if you just slide your mouse down into that area at the bottom of the screen, you may find that button you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm trawling it around down there, but it's not popping up. Let me go to.
Do an Alt S. Can't you do an Alt S?
Alt S.
Yeah, try it.
It didn't do anything.
Didn't work. Okay.
It was worth a try.
Lynn, sometimes that happens on Zoom. You may exit and come back. That usually solves the problem. So you might want to try that.
I'm going to call my husband too.
I should have tried that earlier before I went through all the announcements.
Hey, Jeff, while waiting, you want me to share my 3?
Sure, that would be
I have
great.
my green share screen button. So,
Go ahead.
all right, this is Tanya. So let me share.
Tom,
And
I need help again. I can't find the button for share screen.
you see my screen with the vendor?
Yes.
So this is a Vanda Hawaiian Verde. And let's see, I have the, let me move this window, sorry, away. So you can see the button and close up. So this is a cross of Vanda Sanderiana Alba. No, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong. This is Vanda Stylus Mini Cream Puff. And that's a cross of Vanda Stylus Foods Cream Puff by Vanda Mini Atom. And this is the Hawaiian Verde, which is Sanderiana Alba by Vietnamica. It's not too big, so which I'm happy about. It's beautiful green with a little touch of lavender lip. And then I have a, sorry, can move the screen out of the way. And I have a Psychopsis hybrid. It's called Psychopsis mariposa, which is a papilio by hybrid Kahili. So that's my 3.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Very
Beautiful.
I got a couple too, Jeff, if we're still working on it.
Lynn, are you ready or should Bill go? Wait, you're not. Did you log? You're on mute.
I'm ready to go, but go ahead and let Bill if you want.
Why don't you go ahead and do yours and save? We'll get Bill in at the end here.
Sounds good.
Well,
Go for it.
I saw the button and now I don't. Hold on. Hold on. Tom? 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 Need you.
Who, me?
Yeah, we always need you.
My screen keeps enlarging so much that I can't see the buttons at the bottom. And I can't see how to.
There's an icon on the top right-hand corner of your screen that looks like a little frame. If you click on that, that will reduce the size of the.
Yeah, it's not there. I know.
You want me to show mine while we're waiting?
Okay, Bill, go.
Just launch really quick here.
It's always there.
Can you see it?
Yep.
I just called that one frag season because too many to figure out what's going on. A lot of them are Bessier hybrids. You can tell by the red pouch. This is Purpurata season. That's in Half Moon Bay. They all have cultivars. I don't know which they all are because they're all grown together now. This is formerly Neo-Phoenicia falcata. That's about a 3-inch basket with a zillion little flowers. Now it's called Vanda falcata. And then one tiny little Purpurata.
Wow.
That's in a 10-inch pot.
Beautiful.
And what I like about that one more than most of them is most of Purpuratas, when they start to grow out of the pot like this, they just fall sideways. This one's still trying to keep upright. So it's a little bit out, but it's not falling all the way over. So that's it.
Bill, have you heard of repotting?
I have. It's a rumor I have heard of at some point.
Okay, Lynn, are you ready? Thanks, Bill. You're on mute. Let's see.
Okay. I have my technical expert here.
Okay, third
I
time's
don't
a
know why we're
charm.
having trouble with this. Click on that slide, please.
Have you shared the screen with her?
Have you shared the screen with me, Jeff?
You share screen?
You should be able to. Yeah.
It should be, I think he enabled everybody because otherwise I wouldn't been
Yeah.
able to, neither would Tanya.
Oh, here we go.
No. The buttons keep disappearing from the bottom of the screen.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to move the mouse down to be able to see the
Okay, now we got it.
Okay, we're gonna do this.
I think we're there.
Okay. Yay! I see
Hey,
it.
oh, there we go.
What do you see?
We see PowerPoint.
Do you see the first slide? Just says,
Those Jeff and Stuart. Oh,
how
now
about
we
this
see
one?
it.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
start there.
Okay.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulty. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, here we go. Sorry. So let's get started with Judy Carney. She was the first to send them in to me.
Can you make it full screen?
Can I make it full screen?
Oh, okay.
You have to make your own. If you see hers as a little tiny cube, go to it and push pin.
Now I see two windows. of
Yeah,
hers.
okay. Just a
Yeah.
minute.
Next slide and the current slide.
Yep. Yep. We're gonna do stop share. Now we go back to share screen. Okay. And what we wanna
Screen one.
do- Oh, actually, you want to have them share screen too. That was the problem. Okay.
Now, do you see a
you're
full screen?
That's it.
All righty, good. Thanks, sweetie. Okay, so on the left is Judy Carney with her Schonorchis gensifolia. This is a species from Borneo, looks a lot like wisteria. And Judy got this from Petite Plaisance years and years ago. She won a CCE on it at POE in 2013. Then it had 1,900 flowers and 118 inflorescences. So it's grown considerably since then. And next she has a Bulboderii. It's the first bloom seedling from a flash she purchased also at POE in 2017. It's a very unusual Colombian species. Embria rhodesiana is related to Stanhopea. It's a warm grower, large flowers, probably 6 or 7 inches.
It's
Judy, I don't
upside
know-
down.
What's that?
The photo's upside down.
The flowers are upside down. You almost got me, almost got me. And then from Ecuador, she has an Epidendrum Hugo Medinae, which was just discovered in 2004. It's another worm grower and it forms just a really lovely umbel of flowers. Okay, next we have Jeff Harris. Send in a Sobrellia La Folie. It's a primary hybrid of, I love these names. It's a primary hybrid of Leucoxantha by Xantholuca. And Xantholuca, our friend Asuka, had it awarded in 2015. And on the right, Stuart Menaker sends us a Dendrochilum longifolium with great close-up shot of the small, they're about 1-inch flowers. It's a species from Borneo and it needs intermediate nighttime temperatures. Next, this is the Roberta Fox page. Her Ceratochyllus glandulosa is also known as Trichoglottis glandulosa. It's a large flower, it's about 1 inch for the size of the plant, and it has that beautiful diamond dust texture. And then down at the bottom, Renanthera imshutiana, obviously loves the high light in Roberta's greenhouse. And she has an unusual.
It has nothing that's on my patio.
Oh, is it?
And that it will get, it gets down near freezing. It will take cold.
Wow, but it gets pretty bright light.
Yeah, like it's about 60% shade cloth, but it's an outdoor baby.
Great. And then on the right, she has a very unusual terrestrial species from Africa, Eulophia speciosa. It has a tall inflorescence and it looks like it's happy. This is growing outdoors too, Roberta?
Totally. I put it where it's not going to get water during the winter, but if it gets rained on, it gets rained on. It's growing in plain old play sand. And the neat thing about it is it keeps blooming sequentially. That thing will stay in bloom probably till around October and just keep getting taller.
Very interesting flower. Thank you.
Hi, Roberta. Where is it that you grow your plants outside?
Okay, I'm on Costa Mesa, so it's Southern California, within about 4 or 5 miles of the coast. So
What's your temperature range from low to high?
Low typically is, high 30s, low 40s in the winter. Occasionally we'll get down very close to freezing. The highs, most of the time, don't go too much above 90, but occasionally we get nailed and nothing seems to care. I just water more.
Okay, well, good to know. Thank you about that.
Okay, we'll move on then. Here's Susan Anderson. She grows in an intermediate greenhouse in Bolinas, and she brings us Cattleya dowiana, a species from South America with a lip that could stop 1,000 ships. I love this orchid. And then Dickia glauca is a large sympodial epiphyte from Mexico and Central America with these stunning white blooms that pop out at the nodes of the blue-gray leaves. And then she has Cattleya green emerald, which is a complex hybrid which gets its spots from Cattleya eclandii, I believe. It often has just three or four flowers, but it looks like Susan has 8 or 9 on one inflorescence and great color. So good job, Susan.
By the way, the Hilo Judging Center just gave an FCC to a Dowiana about a week ago.
Ah.
It was unbelievable.
Can't wait to see the pictures. Great. Thank you. Larry White and Roy Wyman show us this beautiful habanera medusa with 3 flowers, and it looks like 5 or 6 more buds. This is found on Borneo and Java. And I have to say, I'm thrilled that mine is just starting to grow a 4th leaf. Blooming is not even a question for me. It's more than I can hope for. So nice job, Larry and Roy. And they're in Cyclia adenocola, which has many other names that have changed several times. It's a native to Mexico. It has a lovely pendant spray and a nice close-up of the flower. Thank you for that. Tom Pickford has a Gongora galeata. This is a epiphytic species from the Mexican rainforest with lots of inflorescence down in the bottom left is the plant hanging in his greenhouse. Nice job, Tom. And then Dendrobium helwigianum. That's a cool grower from Papua New Guinea with flowers that are nearly translucent. That orange lip really makes the flowers pop. Down at the bottom center, he has Dendrobium fargesii. I think it was formerly Epidendrum fargesii or fargesii. It's a tiny Chinese cool growing species with a huge...
Epigenium, not epidendrum. Epigenium.
You're right. You're right. Thank you. So it has a huge flower in relation to the plant, as we can see from Tom's thumb there. And then on the right, Epidendrum cristatum has also been known as Epireniferum. This is a reed stem, so there's no pseudobulbs. This is from Colombia, Ecuador. Lovely contrasting colors on the petals and sepals. Dave Hermeyer shows us his Epidendrum parkinsonianum, an intermediate to cool growing species found from, I believe, Mexico to Panama, with fragrant flowers about 6 inches or more. And in the middle, Masdevallia schlimii is a native to Colombia, up to about 11,000 feet of elevation, so it's a cool grower. Has beautiful long yellow caudi or tails, and multiple, this is unusual, multiple simultaneous flowers on each inflorescence. It's really beautiful. And Yamadara clarissa caguan. It's a complex epi hybrid crossed with Brassavola nodosa. Nicely grown on that mount, Dave. Next we have Kate Glum. She sends us several of her beauties, although it's too bad we don't get to enjoy her usual presentation in Japanese baskets and beautiful pots. On the left is Prosthecia Maryi. It's gone by a bunch of other names, Encyclia, Epidendrum, but it's a lovely species from Mexico. big flowers. Paphra trixianum has 3 blooms on a beautifully grown plant. It's a species from Laos and Cambodia. And next she has Ida cobiana. It's now going by the name Pseudomer lycasti cobiana. It's a mouthful. This is a species from Ecuador and Peru with a fringed lip. It made me think of Ron Parsons. He loves fringed lips, right? And then on the right, on the top, she shows her Oberonia species from the Philippines. And below, the close-up of the flowers shows just how many flowers there are on one inflorescence. Flowers are often less than 1/8 of an inch. And Jan Anderson. We have a pink panther. This is a primary hybrid of Schlimii and Fisheri, and it's a sequential bloomer. Beautiful pouch. The Vanda Jan identified as either cristata or suavis. This is actually Vanda tricolor variety suavis. It has a very large, very fragrant Vanda. It blooms well with lots and lots of bright light, very fragrant. And next she has LC Puppy Love. This is a beautiful hybrid that was created by Stewart Orchids in somewhere around 1970. And the clone True Beauty, which she has here, has received many awards in the US and in Germany and Australia. It's a beautiful flower. And then she has BLC Empress Worsley, another lovely complex hybrid with a great lip and markings. And then back down at the bottom left is Brasidium Nittany Gold. This is a primary hybrid of Brassia vericosa with Oncidium gisbrechtianum. Has a beautiful pendant growth. Nice job, Jan. And Andrea has a new alternative method for hanging orchids. Andrea, you want to talk about these for a minute? Andrea, are you with us? You need to unmute. So the picture's up. Maybe you can just talk about what we're seeing.
All right. I listened to Jason's presentation and I actually won the $25. So that brown one on the left-hand side was his. And I decided to get the some tools from him in pots to make more, but they were quite expensive. And so what I did was I got a bunch of berry baskets. And I got some, I have kiwi orchid bark. I have hard perlite and some charcoal. I made a blend and I tied the 2 baskets. I followed his instructions, put the 2 baskets together, and with some, actually, see if I got, with, I went to Flowercraft and got green wire, and I got green moss, and I tied them all up. And Dave gave me a bunch of plants to put inside. And so what you see on the right-hand side is the plants that Dave gave me in the brown one from Jason. And to the right is the green one that I did myself. And I have, somebody gave me 50 of those little berry baskets. And I have enough that if we wanted to do a little class on that, or if and when we do get together, people want to put one together for themselves, the only thing they'd have to buy is the, I think the moss is the most expensive. The rest of the stuff I have.
So you tuck the little plant in through the holes in the berry basket, and then you put the moss over it at the end?
No, no. I put the plants after the moss is already on, and I tie it up with the wire. So if you look at the right-hand side to where it's in there, that's just tucked into the moss. And the
so ideally the roots then head on into that basket of
right, and
rice medium.
the pot itself, which is sealed at the bottom, has 20-20-20 orchid food in it, and it comes out of the pot and drips down condensation to the rocks. It's great.
I would
I'll let you
love,
know.
why don't you make a note to yourself about three months from now and 6 months from now, give us a little update on how these are doing.
Oh, I shall.
That'd be
I
great.
just moved the brown one. It was getting too much sun. So I moved it to a more shadier spot. Almost all of my orchids are outside.
Great.
I was inspired by his talk too, and I made one, not quite how you did it, but I had a huge Neophonetia, so I took it apart and put it on the moss, and every single plant has rooted and they're starting to bloom. So they really like that. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, I just did it this week, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, mine's about a month into progress now.
Let's keep doing
Andrea
updates.
and Mary, maybe you guys can put together like a 2 or 3 minute video to share. That would be awesome.
Well, you know, I couldn't find the pot without a hole in it, so I bought modeling clay on Amazon and made my own pot.
Well, I just had the sticker on the bottom.
Well, there you go.
The price of it. It said 99 cents, so I just left it on there.
That's a good idea.
That's great. Thanks, Andrea.
You can also get rubber stoppers.
There you go. I didn't have a pot the right shape either. There was a lot of reasons I decided to just make one.
Needs must. Thanks, Andrea. Here we go.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Next, we have Chani Langland. Chani has photographed 3 charming little miniatures for us here. On the left, Dryadella lilliputiana. It says tiny as the name suggests, a species from Brazil. The flowers are less than 1 centimeter wide. And I really like those crisp little burgundy polka dots, which extend all the way down the tails. In the middle, she shows the plant on the top again and the close-up on the bottom. Muscarella schudelii, which was formerly Pleurothallus schudelii. It's a miniature epiphyte from Ecuador. Looks like there are a lot of blooms and buds on that plant, Johnny. And
Yeah,
then,
I just wanted to say these are taken with a USB microscope.
oh. So you mount your camera to it?
No, you use the microscope and you plug it into your computer.
Huh.
And just take the photos and they go directly onto your computer.
We could use a demo of that too. That's great. And then on the right, Johnny has Lepanthes maxillaris, which is of the jaw-like Lepanthes, referring to the shape of the lip. This is also from Ecuador, and it's only about 1/2 centimeter wide. So all these tiny little flowers are probably pollinated by gnats or flies. Thanks for these, Johnny. And I have a few here. On the left, I have Brassivola cuculata, a species from Mexico on down into Venezuela. Grows in low, dry areas. And once I finally figured that out and took it off my water wall, it started to bloom. It has a not very pleasant fragrance at night. And next, Quitlozina pendula. Synonym for that, I think, is Odontoglossum pendulum. It's a high elevation Mexican species that blooms best in my cool house. And then Bulbo grandiflorum is a worm growing species from Papua New Guinea with large flowers, as the name suggests, up to about 7 inches, and also foul smelling, so probably pollinated by flies. And on the right, a primary hybrid, Lycaste balliac, is Lycaste macrophylla by virginalis, which I grow in, intermediate greenhouse. John McCallen brings us 2 of his beautiful frags from 2 different hybridizers. On the left, we have QF Ula Ula. Is that how you say it, John? Ula Ula. It's a complex hybrid that has Cavachii and Bessii in its background. And on the right, frag Acker's supernova, which is Acker's superstar crossed back to Cavachii. John, how huge is this? Maybe John's not on. Beautiful at any rate. I'm sure they're large. And then Jason Douglas has a nice variety of things in bloom. Wilsonara pixie There's a beautifully branched inflorescence here. This is obviously a mature plant. In Dickia glauca, we saw a flower close up earlier from Susan Anderson. Dave's plant here gives us a nice idea of the growth habit and the blue-green glaucous leaves on this orchid. Dendrobium formosum typically has a bright yellow eye in the throat. So this is an unusual albiform. It's very nice. And on the right, Paphiopedilum rhydine is an unawarded primary hybrid of Paph dianthum by Parishii with 2 beautifully presented flowers. I think this needs to go to the judging table soon, Jason. And Ron Norris is going for pink tonight. The unnamed Sobralia on the left. Ron, was this from our friend Bruce Rogers, who usually just has a tag with a number on it?
Yes, indeed.
If you email him a few times, he might send you the name. But it's lovely. And then Cattleya mini purple in the middle. Japheth received an AM on this clone Neon at POE in 2003. And it's easy to see why this would receive an AM. It's perfectly round, flat flower, and that neon magenta lip is just beautiful.
Yeah, that came from Japheth.
Did it?
Yeah.
And a division of his plant. It doesn't look like mini compared to the size of the plant. That's huge. And on the right, Doretus pulcherrima. This is currently a phalaenopsis, but I think the Doretus flower shape is unique, and I'm still calling it Doretus. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
The Sobralia that we received from Bruce, it was given to us nicely from him, and it has 2 different blooming colors in the pot. So that even it makes it more of a conundrum, because half the plant's blooming like this, and the other half of the plant is blooming white with a lilac lip.
Well, isn't that's so Bruce? That's great.
I want one that's white with the lilac lip.
I'll have to show you a picture.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like the leucoxantha crossed with xantholeuca.
Yeah, well, that's unusual.
It sounds like you got 2 seedlings in the same pot, though.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, lots of beautiful flowers tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with time to spare, so it's about 10 till 8. Any questions or anything else anyone wants to share with show and tell before we move to the speaker?
I'll say one thing about the jungle pots that you saw made with the plastic baskets. When you look for your clay pot, make sure you get the clay that's porous. Some of the clay pots don't weep. You're better off with one that, like the Italian type clays, that actually transpire.
Okay. Well.
So Lynn needs to unshare her screen now.
Oh, good luck on that. Jeff, can you just take it?
I think I can take
I got it. Stop share.
All right. So I'm back. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Tom now, who almost doesn't need an introduction, but we'll do one anyway. This is an abbreviated version of his bio. So Tom, as many of us know, has been more professionally involved with orchids for over 3 decades. He's an accredited AOS judge. He's chairman of the AOS's Conservation Committee, and it's not on here, but I understand he's also now the president of the Hilo Orchid Society. Though he moved to Hawaii in his 20s to pursue a career as a marine biologist and realized there that he was better suited for horticultural pursuits, moved to work at New York Botanical Gardens, the Brooklyn Botanical Garden, Green Tree Estate in Long Island, was floor manager of the New York International Orchid Show, and eventually took a position at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. as the orchid collection specialist, where he cultivated and curated their collection for the past 17 years before he moved to Hawaii again. Also on here is that for the past 14 years, he's contributed 2 monthly columns to the AOS Orchids magazine, which is actually where, I feel like I see and hear his thoughts on a routine basis, and I really appreciate those. Also, he's co-authored the Book of Orchids with 2 scientists from Kew. He's presented at recent World Orchid conferences on conservation topics, and was a founding member of the North American Orchid Conservation Center. And then in 2018, left the Smithsonian to return to Hawaii, initially working at the Hawaii Tropical Botanical Garden and on the north of Hilo of the Big Island, and has since refocused his efforts to realize a new concept in orchid conservation, the Orchid Garden Conservation Network, which we'd love to hear more about, Tom, as well. And I have a quote that you believe that the concept of growing orchids in the garden setting is a viable model worldwide for conservation. So with that, let me see if I can transfer to you to share. We did it earlier. We actually practiced.
We wanted to make sure there were no glitches, but that doesn't mean there won't be any. So wish us luck, and thank you for the introduction. I am really hopeful that a lot of you will come to the Big Island and visit me, and possibly go on some other trips with me. I know this is not the time to be traveling, but we have to think this new normal will change yet again at some point, and we can start resuming our orchid lives the way we'd like them to.
And
So this particular talk is, I just created it for you, so there may be a few issues with it, and I actually had quite a bit of technological problems accessing a lot of the photos from my phone, because that's my method now of taking orchid photos. It's something I can carry around in my pocket, and I just love the fact that I can do that. The quality of the photos may not be the absolute greatest, but the Galaxy phones seem to be pretty terrific. And so a lot of the photos in my articles are actually taken off of that phone and are actually still publishable, which is incredible to me. So just a little bit of background about this talk. I'm gonna share my screen. It will let me. So I'm calling this talk Tom's African Adventure. And it truly was. Just a little bit of background about how all of this came about. This is one of the reasons, if you're not already an orchid judge, that sometimes it can be to your advantage to do that. I got an email about 2 years ago from a fellow named Michael Tibbs, who many of you probably know. It's a guy from South Africa who does a lot of all sorts of things all over the world, and a great cultivator of orchids for the world. And it was an invitation to come and judge the orchid show in Nairobi, Kenya, the Kenya Orchid Society. And I just couldn't believe what I was reading in this email, that they were not only inviting me, but they were going to send me on, they're going to pay for everything, going to put me up in a beautiful place. They were going to, they were going to send me on a safari. I mean, it was like a dream vacation, and all for free. They're going to cover it all. And that's just for being a judge. Now, in return, I had to give a few talks, but, that's kind of like falling out of bed for me. So it was really a wonderful and exciting time. So, of course, I had to take full advantage of this opportunity. How often does someone pay your way to Africa? So I decided that after I had fulfilled my commitment to the Kenya Orchid Society, that I would try to get to some other places on the continent that I'd had invitations to visit. If I was in Africa, come see us, particularly in Mauritius. The president of the society there is a guy named Serge Lecluse. And we had been corresponding by email about some orchid identifications. And I met him at the World Orchid Conference in South Africa a few years before. And he was like, next time you're in Africa, we'll bring you out to Mauritius. So I had the opportunity to do Mauritius as well. And Mauritius had a beautiful orchid show the week before the show in Nairobi. So we arranged for me to come to that show first, and I got to experience the magic of really incredible island Mauritius. So let's start there. I did go to a few other places while I was there. Mauritius is, of course, a wonderful volcanic island to the east of Madagascar. It's a pretty ancient volcano. And as you can see, it's very, very highly eroded. They don't really look like volcanoes anymore. It's an astoundingly beautiful island in that, so much so that I think it was Mark Twain who wrote that God created Mauritius first so that it could be a model for what heaven would be like. It's got lots and lots of endemic orchids and just incredibly beautiful landscapes, as you can see. But the sad part of the story is that, well, it is, I would say that compared to Madagascar, it's a very, very affluent place. No one is really, you don't really see a lot of poverty there like you hear about on Madagascar. And the reason for that is that most of the island went into sugar cultivation. Sugar, the most evil substance on the planet. It makes me fat and gives me pre-diabetes, and it also causes a lot of deforestation around the world. And the sad thing that John Davey will also tell you is that probably only about 2% of the native forests on Mauritius are still extant. That's even worse than on Madagascar. And luckily there are still quite a few. This is just to show, you know, this is a place where people live well and can really enjoy life. It's a beautiful climate, very similar to the Big Island. So one of the first places that the Orchid Society Mauritius took me to was a place called Petran, or the Black River Gorge. It's a conservation place, where they have a gene bank of native plants, specifically from Mauritius. My favorite that I saw there was this little scruffy looking palm that I would give anything to have seeds for. It is extremely rare, and it only occurs on Mauritius, nowhere else in the world. And I don't have the name, but John Davey will get it for me if any of you are interested in it. It's not something that you're going to be able to find, but it's such a wonderful, scruffy, beautiful little spiny palm. And this is what the landscape at Petran looks like, and I suspect a good portion of Mauritius looked like this 100 years ago, or 150 years ago, before sugar was cultivated. It doesn't look like much, but it looks like kind of scrub. But when you start walking around in there, as you know, they were very happy to take me around. There are thousands and thousands of tiny orchids everywhere, a lot of miniature things. And this was probably the most common one. This is Angræcum tectinatum. And I just was so delighted to see so many of these growing so beautifully and perfectly. You know what? I put up the wrong version of the talk. There should have been animations here. I guess we'll just keep going, but I'm bumming. This is this plant here. I don't know. Can you see my cursor? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are several species of little Angræcums in here. You can see several of them. This is Angræcum cuculatum, and you can see what the flowers are like. And you can also see that there's tons of little bulbophyllums everywhere as well. So it's really quite an orchid paradise here. One of the coolest bulbophyllums that occurs in Pétrin is this guy. Does anyone know it? Because this is in cultivation. This is Bulbophyllum occultum, and it was, you know, the flowers are quite small, and you know, this is one of those rachis type of bulbophyllums that are, you know, a lot of the African bulbophyllums have a rachis, but this one is different in that it's a tricornered rachis, and the colors, I think, are very beautiful, and it's such a wonderfully exotic plant. I didn't detect any fragrances from it, but I suppose it's possible with that coloration. There's the possibility of a unpleasant fragrance, but I didn't detect any. I'm told that there are many color forms of this, and it would be really wonderful to get a seedling batch of this going. John Davey, if you're listening, the world is waiting for you to make 1 million of these. Here's a few other bulbophyllums. No flowers on these, so we didn't know exactly what they were, but this on the right-hand side, this bulbophyllum was a little disturbed, and look what happened. Just can everybody see the colony of ants that that came out after it was disturbed? Let's see if I can make it go. There we go.
Ooh. Wow.
So a lot of these plants are living with probably highly acidic conditions because of the formic acid of the ants. So many ant plants actually, and that's a clue on how best to grow some of these things. Another plant that's actually the mascot of the Mauritius Orchid Society is Cryptopus. You can see them scrambling through the brush here with their roots way out in the open. You see this other plant here has its roots you know, extended. The best way to kill a Cryptopus is to try and pot all of those roots. I have a couple of these in my personal collection, and I just grow them in plastic net pots so that the roots can do exactly what they're doing here. They have a fairly long inflorescence with these very wonderful, very exotic flowers. This is Cryptopus alatus, but there's another species on Mauritius that Patricia de Robillard showed me. Wasn't in bloom at the time, but I believe it's an undescribed species as well. So these are you know, tough to grow because we like to pot our orchids or basket them. Those roots do not want to touch anything organic. They just want to be out in the open. This is another shot of Pétrin, and you will, if you look at it carefully, you see on the right-hand side, there's a lot of big trees, a lot of invasive plants, invasive ferns, and this is, you know, it's the same way on the Big Island. We have lots and lots of invasive plants, so the native plants really have a tough time. only can be in the most remote habitats. But if you look on the left here, you can see that that they've put up a barrier, and that here on the left are the native plants that where they've worked incredibly hard, the staff at Petrin, to rid the place of these invasive plants that smother out everything else. So this is John Davies' son, and darn it. So here he is trying to pull out an ironwood.
No, you can't give up. I'm filming you.
He's working so hard to get that ironwood tree out of the conservation area.
Conservation is hard work. Come on. I should be helping you.
So that's not actually the plant that he was trying to get. This one is.
That's a good idea. Take it away.
Okay, let's see if it'll.
Oh no, you can't give up. I'm filming you.
So after our day at Petrin, we saw a lot of really cool things there. Oh man, I'm so mad at myself right now because I have the wrong presentation up. We just down the street from where from the reserve, there was this wonderful place where we stopped for Indian food. Mauritius has a wonderful ethnic mix of people. A lot of people from India, a lot of Creoles, a lot of Chinese, and it's really kind of wonderfully ethnically diverse, and everyone lives in great harmony. While we're, of course, right here by the food stand, we have some visitors who are looking for a handout. So, oops, let's go back. So here's a few pictures from the Orchid show itself. Here's some of the judges and the clerks that judged this wonderful show. There were some wonderful specimen plants, including this Ionopsis utricularioides, which I'd never really seen one bloomed quite so well. There's a Guarianthe skinneri. It's incredibly densely flowered. This is all testament to the wonderful climate that they have there. Trichoglothis smithii. So many of these plants are blooming better than I've really seen them in other places. So it was quite nice to see. Now, I believe it's more, there are legal problems with actually growing a lot of the native species of Mauritius since they're so endangered. But the group from Petrin actually made a presentation of endangered species, endangered orchids. And I was particularly enamored of this plant, Phaeus villosus, which apparently I've never seen, but you look at we didn't get to see it quite in bloom, but if you look at the inflorescences, they have really, it's just a really interesting plant. And if it's like it's like other Phaeus, probably it can be propagated from those stems. So anyway, I'm hoping to see this in person one day. Really a fantastic thing to see. Here's this is a wonderful lady from also part of one of the mainstays, the backbone of the Orchid Society. This is Patricia de Robillard. She's got the most amazing garden that's absolutely filled with orchids. And she also has an orchid business, as does John Davey. He has a business called Dodo Orchids. And, you know, I believe he does weekly podcasts, if some of you would like to see that. Oniella is actually native to, I think it's not endemic to Mauritius, but it is native there. And so there's a beautiful example of one of the very nice Sangreicoids. One of my other passions is our seashells. And I managed to finagle out of my hosts on Mauritius a trip to see a shell museum where some of the rarest shells in the world are there. One of the coolest is this right here. This is Harpa caustata, which is only found on Mauritius or around Mauritius. And I desperately wanted to try and find one of these, but they kept me so busy lecturing, I never got to the beach or to go scuba diving. Thanks, John. But anyway, at the Shell Museum, they were actually selling these, and they were about $2,000 a piece. So you think orchids are expensive. This is one of the saddest stories of Mauritius is the dodo was exterminated when the Dutch came to Mauritius. Mauritius has a very long and interesting history between the Dutch, the French, and the English, and all these various other groups. The Indians came to work in the sugar plantations, and the Chinese came as merchants. But in the end, so many endemic creatures such as the dodo, wouldn't it be incredible to have these today, are unfortunately extinct. The National Museum has this portrait as well as some bones from dodos, but this is a testament to you know, how important it is to preserve species. This is the Botanic Garden, or one of the main gates to the Botanic Garden. It's one of the oldest botanic gardens in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a spectacular place full of some of the rarest palms on the planet. And because it's such an old garden, many of the plants have gotten to be you know, extremely old. What you're looking at here, these are the Taliput palms, which has like the largest, it's one of the largest palms in existence. They have magnificent, towering, gigantic leaves, make you feel like a Lilliputian when you're standing amongst them. Probably many of you know bottle palms. This is the Hyophorbe that's endemic to Mauritius. And just if you love palms, this is definitely the garden to go to, because they've planted promenades of, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 different species of very, very rare and wonderful palms in this botanic garden. One of the things it's famous for is its ponds that have Victoria water lilies in it. It was one of the first places to ever display them to the public. Unfortunately, they were kind of dormant when I was there, so I didn't get to see them. But the water gardens were quite spectacular with lotus and other things. And many trees have been planted by dignitaries from other countries, including Robert Mugabe in this case. After I had a great time on Mauritius, I'll never forget it. I'm dying to go back again, and maybe some of you will come with me. There's a lot to see there that I didn't get to see on my short visit. But the next stop, I had to get back to Nairobi for the Nairobi Orchid Show, the Kenya Orchid Society show. And what you're looking at, this is the side of the road, pretty much all throughout Nairobi and many other places in Africa. It's the sides of the roads are all nurseries. People have brought their plant shops to the side of the highway. If you if you see a plant you like and you stop, someone will just come out of the bushes there and sell it to you. It's quite astonishing, and it's a custom that I really love and would like to adopt here in Hawaii, maybe. But anyway, I have too many plants already. At least that's what my credit card says. So the Kenya Orchid Society put me up in a really wonderful series of places, actually. The first night was at this amazing hotel that's attached to a shopping mall that had some of the most wonderful artifacts that I couldn't afford, unfortunately, but wow, I just really enjoyed looking through all the shops and seeing all of the fabulous things that are out there. The first night, actually not the, well, almost the first night that we were there, we were invited to a soiree to thank all of the people that had worked so hard on putting the show together at the home of Dimitri and Alexandra Kontos. They're a Greek couple that settled 3 generations ago in Nairobi and have done very well for themselves. You'll see why in just a minute. This is just one small section of their greenhouse. These are some of their plants. There's a beautiful Arpaphyllum giganteum. This is an amazing thing, Rangeris amaniensis, which is a plant that's native to the area around Nairobi. It's a true Kenyan species that, you know, I had seen tiny seedlings of it, but I had no idea what its potential was. Here is, you know, that little plant was in the greenhouse. This one had been planted on a tree in her garden and was just absolutely astonishing to see. This is probably, you know, most of these flowers were at eye level. So the plant that you're seeing is probably about 5 feet from top to bottom. You know, Alexandra and Dimitri love to put on, they love to feed people. They're Greek. So they had just amazing things. I feel myself getting fatter just thinking about it. And their garden by moonlight was really incredible with all kinds of wonderful exotic plants, including rickrack cactus. So they started a cut flower business in Nairobi. You know, most of us probably think of Nairobi as being a hot, dry, arid place. It's actually a very tropical place with wonderful humidity and very, very wonderful temperatures. It's not super hot or super cold. So they are one of the biggest employers. I believe they've passed this business on to their daughter, but you can see that they're growing cut flowers here. Look at all these fabulous roses that are things that you would see. And you can see all of the greenhouses that house all of these cut flowers. And they produce hundreds of thousands of stems every day. Here's just to give you an idea of what the operation is like. And not just roses. These are Eustoma, also known as fairy gentian, beautiful double-flowered. It's almost like a blue rose, but not quite. And they're trialing other kinds of cut flowers as well. Here's Gerber daisies, or this is a type of daisy that is from Africa that does really, really well here. But this is just such small potatoes compared to the rose business. So as I said, they not only invited me to come judge the show, they invited me to go on safari. It turns out that one of their members, who also hosted me, owns an incredible place called the Fig Tree Camp in the Masai Mara Park. And so they paid for me to go on this little plane and go to see this incredible safari. I had just missed by about 2 weeks the great wildebeest migration. It's hard to predict exactly when it's going to happen, but I'm told it's one of the great wonders of the world, with literally hundreds of thousands of wildebeest crossing through Masai Mara. Here, let's see if this will work. The Maasai live near pretty much near the park or within the park. Their village is usually a circle with all of the dwellings all around the outer edge. And they have a nice little tourist industry going on there. The ladies came to greet us. Anyway, wonderfully friendly people. The boys have a custom where they're really non-violent and non-combative people, a very peaceful lifestyle. And they, the way they compete, they jump. And whoever can jump the highest is the boy that gets to marry the daughter of the chief. So it's an interesting custom. These are very sweet, earnest people, very gentle people. And of course, it's important to support people like that. Here we go. Here's, you know, one of the things they do is they sell trinkets to the tourists, crafts that they've made. You know, again, very, very nice people. I really feel very, very fat when I look at this picture. This particular young man became very friendly with me. We text each other all the time, even still to this day. I spent about $100 on trinkets because I had a lot of gifts to get. It was October, so I knew I'd be bringing things back. So I think they thought, wow, he has $100 to spend on trinkets. So after like a week later, he sent me this picture and that's his mother. You think he's trying to get me to marry his mother? Anyway, I wasn't quite sure what to make of that, but in a way I was touched. So amazing. The Masai Mara is an incredible place with pretty much every animal, every African animal that you want to see is represented there. Zebras, giraffes, water buffaloes. It's just absolutely full of the most amazing animals everywhere you look. Of course, I'm a plant person. I have to, in the past, I've been on safari once before and I had to be dragged kicking and screaming to go there because it's not about plants. There are so many animals in the Masai Mara that you don't really see a whole lot of plants as a result because they're all being eaten. Anything that blooms is, you know, is basically grazed upon. The Jeep that was taking us around to see the animals, I got to share it with the driver, which means I got to sit up front, and 3 honeymoon couples. So talk about a fifth wheel or a 7th wheel in this case. But they were really, really great companions. Of course, they were all very into each other, but that's fine. We had a great time all together. Here's one of the, probably the most dangerous thing at Masai Mara are the hippopotamuses. It was actually kind of a dry season while we were there, which is why all the hippos are sort of all together in this one deep pool that they had. But the camp, the Fig Tree Camp, is actually surrounded by an oxbow lake. And there are, thankfully it was dry this time of year. So we couldn't, there weren't hippos in it. But they advise you never to go walking at night out of your tent because the hippos can be so dangerous in the dark. Oops, what happened? Okay, many lions there. We probably saw 100 and many cubs. So they tend to be more nocturnal. So during the day, they tend to sleep. The babies are, of course, suckling here, which was really lovely to see. They don't advise you to get out of the car or to get out of the Jeep very often. So when it was time for lunch, our driver found a spot where we would be safe enough. And of course, the honeymoon couples were all taking selfies. And I started walking around looking for flowers. This was a tiny, tiny plant. This is a polygala. I thought it was very lovely, but it was like that flower that you're seeing there was less than half an inch. And then here we have, I think it's an Amacaris or something of that nature. It's related to Amaryllis. And the flowers literally pop up out of the ground with no leaves. I guess the leaves are there during the rainy season, and during the dry season, the flowers pop up for pollination. But this is probably going to get grazed upon by something. Luckily, there didn't seem to be too many animals around in this particular spot. There were wonderful opportunities to take images of just beautiful animals out in nature. One of the things that astonished me the most about this place, it's so flat. I mean, there's mountains way, way off in the distance, but the sky just seemed to be so much bigger in this place than I've ever seen anywhere in my life. And that's probably because of the lack of forests and trees and all of that, but wow, it was just mind-blowing. So back at after 2 days of safari, I went back to the show, and what you're looking at here are some native African species from the Kenya area. Here we have a tridactyly. These flowers are quite small and on racemes, but I think it's just a really stupendous thing, a very succulent plant that seems incredibly easy to grow. They have massive specimens of these. This is a tiny miniature plant. This is an Angreacopsis. And then on the right is a search orchid. So there's so many really great orchids from Africa that we know almost nothing about. So Dimitri and Alexandra put probably the biggest orchid exhibit in their show. The show is really extensive, but they had a very clever theme this year, which was vintage, which meant that everyone got to show off other things that they had collected, like there's old vintage bottles of wine. There's antique, every kind of antique was represented in this show. There was a beautiful exhibit full of ladies' feathered hats, which I would think, God, you don't want to put water around that stuff. But anyway, they also had this wonderful classic car in this particular exhibit. So I think it was a brilliant idea for an orchid show, and I bet you San Franciscans can do something even better. Some of the interesting plants that were in the show, this was one of the ones that got a cultural award, and I think a flower quality award. This is Polystachya paniculata, but you're probably used to seeing this in orange. This is a sort of a, colors are not coming true on my screen anyway, but this was almost brilliant red and just extremely well grown. So that got awarded. There's also a Gastrorchis, which is another Phaeus relative. This is Fuchsii, which is native to Madagascar. They had also done these wonderful sort of hanging pillars of nobile dendrobiums, which was something I hadn't seen before, at least not in that kind of form, and thought it was pretty cool. So the owners of Fig Tree Lodge were my hosts for the second half of the trip, and they are obviously major plant people. Look at the wonderful African staghorn ferns and heliconias and all kinds of vines with flowers. This is just a really wonderful place to stay. And this is Kiran, who is again one of the owners. This is her husband's collection of whiskey, which we partook of pretty much every night. So really, really wonderful people, made me feel very much at home. After my duties for the show, they wanted to entertain me, so they took me to several different parks and museums. This is a nature park that featured all kinds of interesting animals, and they insisted that I wear this alligator, not an alligator, it's a crocodile, as a wreath around my neck. You can see that they put a rubber band around its jaws so that it wouldn't damage me too much. This is also a fresco that was there of a fellow getting circumcised. He doesn't look like he's too happy about it. So after the Orchid show, it turned out that there were 2 Orchid shows going on in Africa the same weekend. So I was able to catch the very tail end of another show, which was in South Africa, very near the Kruger National Park. And so I had made contact with some friends over there who came and collected me from the airport and took me to a place called the Leopard Tree Lodge. And so we were there, you know, a lot of crazy orchid and plant people, and just having a good time walking around in this particular wilderness, which had some cool things, including these eulophias. This is not Eulophias speciosa, and I can't remember the name of which species it is, but it's very, very close to the one that Roberta showed you. And again, you can see that they're wonderfully floriferous, blooming over a long period of time. I'm told that Eulophias speciosa can become weedy in California. I know that Harold Kupowitz, for example, has them pop up all over his garden because when they go to seed, they just germinate and grow there. And that's kind of how they are here in Africa as well. They just sort of pop up in some really odd places, it seems. But anyway, beautiful species to see. And then this was something that I was really, really delighted to see. It's not an orchid, but this is probably many of you who've been to Brazil know a plant called the Velocia, where that actually a lot of orchids grow on. This used to be a Velocia, but they decided the ones from Africa were different enough that they gave it a different genus, and in this case it's Xerophytum with an X. And they look kind of like Dr. Seuss plants with these wonderful, they also refer to them as stick lilies because the trunks are sort of black. They almost look like tree fern would, and they have these wonderful kind of serrated edged leaves and these amazing flowers. Now these have survived in this spot, which burns frequently. A lot of plants in Africa, and particularly in South Africa, they have a fire ecology, and so that's the fire actually influences the seeds to germinate. But these plants are all growing on a rocky outcrop, and it's the only reason apparently that they've survived is that the fire doesn't really get to them on these rocks. I'm also a little bummed because I'm told the day before this entire patch, a couple hundred plants, were all in full bloom, and I only caught this one flower that was left. So someday I'd like to see that in full bloom. I'm sure it's quite the spectacle. These are other wildflowers that were around the leopard tree camp, including wild Gerber daisies, oxalis, and Haemanthus, or Scadoxus actually in this case. These are actually wonderful plants that people cultivate, but are just growing wild in the landscape there. Some beautiful parks that we were taken to, including this incredible walk that had clivias, growing down in the ground underneath. The reason that there's this boardwalk here is that apparently there's miniature hippopotamuses that roam under here at night, and they don't want to disturb their habitat. Plus, they're dangerous to be around, although they wouldn't be out during the day. So the show at Black River had some really fantastic plants within it, including this Laelia speciosa, wonderful Mexican species. But this was the best one I had ever seen with, I don't know, it must have had 10 or 12 spikes on it. For me, this is a plant that every time I've tried it, I've killed it and ruined it. They also seem to have great affinity for growing dendrobiums. This is Gratiacissimum, this is Dendrobium senile, and this is, of course, Datton Sunray, a very, very old hybrid, all just blooming really, really well in this climate. Angraecoids, of course, were well represented in the show. The basket of Angræcum leonis, Angræcum sesquipedale, of course. Errangus modesta, this plant must have had 20 spikes that were about 4 feet long. And microcelia, wonderful leafless orchids from South Africa. Here's a few other interesting plants, some Polystachyias. This Polystachya is actually a very, very common plant that you see out in the wild. But this is also a Polystachya, the pink one on the left, which I've never seen before, not even in a book. And I love the grass-like foliage. I would love to get a piece of this someday. Lots of little tiny pseudobulbs down around the base, and another microcelia. So my plan was to actually go from, so we drove our little merry band that had attended the show together, had to drive to a place called Pietermaritzburg. And along the way, there were lots of nice things to see. It's a couple hours drive. But I was going to be doing a lot of driving on this trip because I was going to drive from Pietermaritzburg all the way to Cape Town. It took me 3 days to do that. Something that probably wasn't the greatest idea, but it was still pretty fabulous. But anyway, one of the major trees that you get to see, and I guess you guys have these in California, are the jacarandas. The color that you're seeing here is not accurate. They're almost an electric blue and quite spectacular. And they also have grevilleas growing alongside them with these incredibly contrasting colors that I just thought was really cool to see. In Pietermaritzburg, there's a University of KwaZulu, it's called, and there's a botanic garden there attached to the university. And one of our merry band was a woman named Allison Young, who took us to see a lot of wild habitats where we saw some really cool plants. There's a lot of everlasting type flowers. These haven't quite opened yet, but they look like they're going to be incredibly beautiful when they do. South Africa is noted for having all kinds of wonderful exotic gladiolus. This is one that we found that had a really wonderful exotic sweet fragrance. But the colors, just really unusual, sort of brown and yellow, really a stunner. And again, we're talking fire ecology. This is, I believe, this is one of those South African bulbs that literally burns every year and then regrows. I'm trying to remember the name of this. Bowphone, I believe, is the genus of this, which is a very strange name. Yeah, in the same habitat that had burned, there was a ravine running through it, and we went over there, and there in the shade were these tiny, tiny little angraecoids. It turned out that it's Mysticidum. They were identified later as Mysticidum caprum. So I went and found a picture of what the flower looks like. The flowers are huge compared to these tiny plants. I think it's an incredibly beautiful and very desirable orchid. The Botanic Garden at KwaZulu had all kinds of fun things within it, including Lediburias. Probably many of you have grown one of these at one point or another. I used to call them Scilla violacea, but Lediburias, I think the correct genus. Every one of these had a different leaf pattern and were, I thought, really beautiful plants of easy culture. They also had quite a few different sort of milkweed relatives. These are all Asclepiads or Cirripegias, Huernias, Edithcolia, amazing little plants that, again, are quite collectible with really fascinating flowers. As well as, of course, the world famous Stapelia gigantea, which smells probably even worse than your typical bulbophyllum. But it's a really wonderful thing to see in the habitat and the wild. The next step while I was in this area of South Africa was to go to the nursery of Lorenz Grobler, who runs a company called Afri Orchids. He sells really amazing plants. And these were just some of the things that were blooming in his garden. That's a gastrochylis. This is a Canthophypium over here. You can see he's growing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of native angraecoids, really, really beautifully. He used to come, well, he probably still would come to the Redland Festival if you get out that way. And I'm sure I know he goes to Cal Orchid, and James Rose sells a lot of his stuff. It was just some pictures from his nursery. His show house was just unbelievable, but I think my camera ran out of batteries, so I couldn't get a lot of pictures. So driving to Cape Town was incredibly scenic. And here we have a scene of what we call the fynbos. It's spelled F-Y-N-B-O-S, the fynbos habitat, which has some really, really unique plants with it, including bugle lilies or Watsonia, which I don't understand why we don't grow these. Maybe you do grow these in California. I have never seen them for sale, but think that they're wonderful. And I did manage to get a bunch of seeds, which have all germinated and are growing for me. So hopefully they won't become a horrible invasive here on the Big Island.
I grow them in California.
Oh, very good. I'm glad to know that, because it's just not something that you ever see in a bulb catalog.
I inherited
They're also
from my mother.
a invasive weed.
This is an incredible group of everlastings. I want to say they're helichrysums, but they're not. It's a relative. So they're all definitely in the daisy family, Compositae, but this one's something else entirely. Speaking of daisies, of course, these are not daisies. This is Mesembryanthemum, which is a wonderful group of. You probably have all of these all over your highways. They're really, really good as plants along the roads and hot, dry areas that don't get a lot of care. But South Africa is very well known for its daisies. So getting close to Cape Town, you can see off in the distance, there's Table Mountain. You can see the city underneath Table Mountain. I was lucky enough to be able to stay at the Botanic Garden. They actually have little cabanas there where if you you arrange in advance, you can stay there at a very nominal rate. It's walking along the beach here, and there are a lot of Portuguese man of war that come into this part of the world, so beware. The Botanic Garden is really world class. This is Kirstenbosch Botanic Garden. About 30 years ago, they sowed these seeds of Welwitschia in a garden bed there and just let them do their thing, and here they are. This is a giant burl from an ancient Welwitschia. These are some of the oldest plants in Namibia, where these are native. They are amongst the oldest plants on the planet. This burl is so big that you could sit in it. Some other great plants that we're seeing along the way driving to Cape Town. This is a wonderful plant in the Iridaceae called Wachendorfia. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. Again, another plant that you never see for sale, but looks like it would be really interesting to grow. And here's another one of those amaryllids that basically just has a flower head coming out of the ground with no leaves at all. I believe this one is a Brunsvigia. Some other really cool plants that were on the way. This is actually, probably many of you grow something called Streptocarpella, which has usually blue flowers. This is one of the native ones from South Africa. The flowers are smaller, but they have wonderful stripes and very, very floriferous little plant. Here's a really unusual impatiens that was also growing in a shady spot. Probably many of you in California grow these pincushion flowers, or Leptospermum, but they are native to South Africa. And I've passed through many landscapes where these were all over the sides of the road, just growing very, very happily. I don't know, I just find them to be astonishing flowers. Turns out that they're actually pollinated by honey creepers, and they have lots and lots of little receptacles that are full of nectar. So that's why the birds like them so much. Possibly the most amazing of the proteas is this one. This is the king protea. This is from the Botanic Garden. I didn't see this in the wild, but the Botanic Garden has signs everywhere because it's like the biggest flower. It's like way bigger than your head. So people want to see it, and it's one of the big attractions at Kirstenbosch. Here's just some other plants from the conservatory. Very, very interesting plants that were very unfamiliar to me, so much so that I don't know the names of the ones that are here in the picture. Anyone want to take a guess what this is here in the middle? Think that's a Vanda? Actually, it's
like a succulent of some sort.
What's that?
Looks like a succulent of some sort.
It's a succulent, but Vandas are succulent. No, this is actually a gasteria, which is very closely related to aloe. But you can see the way it sort of does this rickrack thing like a Vanda. It kind of faked me out when I first saw it. But no, it's a native plant of South Africa called gasteria. Some other really wonderful little plants on the side of the road. That's a little kalanchoe or kalanchoe on the left. Brilliant, brilliant colors. I've never seen it in cultivation, but wow, it was a stunner. And on the right is a sedge that I thought was incredibly beautiful. It flushes yellow in the sun like that and has lots of little flowers. It's basically a grass, it's a sedge. But wonderful, unusual plants. Now, I was invited to go on a nature walk in a place called, in a place called Betty's Bay, the Kogelberg Reserve area. And one of the reasons why folks wanted to go there was that the whole area had had a fire the year before. which means that a lot of interesting plants will be in bloom the following year. And so I was very, very lucky to be able to tag along. I met, in particular, a woman by the name of Jenny Parsons, who ended up doing a joint article with me for the AOS about South African orchids. And so this is just one of the trails in Kogelberg. If you're a birder, Kogelberg has about 1,000 different birds that can be seen there at various times of the year, which again make it pretty wonderful. I did know the name of this gorgeous orange amaryllis, but I cannot remember it now. Here's a whole bunch of irids that were all seen on the same walk the same day, including gladiolus that you might grow in your garden, but this is a wild species here. There's babianas and iris, and this is aristea. These are things that probably many of you can grow in gardens in San Francisco area, and probably further south as well. But again, these are the kinds of bulb plants that we don't get to see very often. Here again on the side of the road, another wonderful helichrysum. I was just so impressed. Everywhere I turned, there was some other wonderful plant. There's another very arid place called Little Karoo Botanic Garden that was full of really wonderful tree aloes and many other interesting arid plants. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to upload some of the pictures from my phone, but you get the idea what wonderful landscaping plants these are. And I know that Jim Rose grows some of these on his property, and probably many of you do as well. Another plant that is rampant throughout South Africa are pelargoniums, or the scented geraniums. And here's just a few examples of them. This was something really cool as well. At first, I thought I was looking at a Lachenalia, which is a plant in the hyacinth family that's also well known from South Africa. But it turns out that this one is an erythrina that has like an underground bulb. Usually erythrinas are tree-like. And so I thought this was a really wonderful plant to see. Here's a few other wonderful things. Grewia, you probably grow this as a hedge in California. How many of you grow rhodohypoxis in your rock gardens? Again, all kinds of very, very interesting, wonderful South African plants. This is something very much like an allium. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. Orchids. On this trip to Kogelberg, we saw quite a few orchids on the trail. Go back. Okay. So here we have pterygodium and ceratandra. Ceratandra atrata is this gorgeous plant here on the right. They call them shield orchids, and they really are brilliant, sunny, wonderful little plants that obviously bloom really, really well. The one that I really wanted to see while I was there were these. This is Bartholina. Bartholina. The one on the left is Bermaniana. The one on the right is Ephelia. And actually, I was informed that both species were found while I was there in places I had been, and yet I didn't get to see these in person. These are Jenny Parsons plants. So this is, I believe, the plant that Lunanta is like the common name for this, the name that's been appropriated by that wonderful group, Lunanta. But anyway, astonishing plants that apparently are not that hard to grow. I know, it's like we should all have this. I'm going to show a picture toward the end of a plant that was exhibited at the World Orchid Conference in South Africa several years ago that I'm told has been in that same pot for 10 years. So how hard can they be if it comes back and blooms like that every year? So again, I met Jenny Parsons on this particular walk. I was actually just a little late to be seeing some of these species. This picture on the left is Satyrium carneum, and this is a picture that I took at a park there. But you can see it's already going. The lower flowers were gone, and the tip of the inflorescence was gone. But Jenny had some fabulous photos of some of the other species, as well as carneum. But this is Satyrium erectum, and you can see why it would be called that, just coming into bloom in this picture. And on the right, this is Satyrium, which is Hallei. Some really, really beautiful plants that, again, I'm told are of fairly easy culture. This is Satyrium corifolium, which has these brilliant, brilliant orange flowers. You can see how sunbirds would be wonderfully attracted to these. Here's a few other really nice orchids. Bonatea speciosa is something very, very well known. And the purple on the right is something called Ivatella. And I actually got to see these on the side of the road as I was driving on my way to Cape Town. And here's something very special that I've never seen in person, but would really like to. It's a Holothrix, very, very strange and unusual hairy orchid. One that we saw on our nature walk was this Disa. This is Disa bivalvata. This is Jenny's photo over here. The other two are mine. Jenny really is very, very good with her photos. Here's two other great Disas that also bloom around the same time of year. This is Disa cornuta on the left, and on the right is Disa atricapilla, which is just a fascinating flower that apparently is engaging in pseudocopulation. I think many, many orchids do that, basically attracting pollinators based on the fact that they are either making a pheromone fragrance or look something very much like a female insect. One of the most beautiful of the Disas is this here. This is Disa venusta, Venus, one of the blue Disas. These are all Jenny's photographs. I wish I had seen this in person, but I did not. But they are really quite astonishing plants. So the last leg of my trip was to the country of Gabon, which was really a revelation to me in many ways. This is tropical Africa. This is more or less equatorial. And the reason I wanted to go there was because of this fellow here on the left. This is Tariq Stavart. You've probably read articles or seen papers authored by him. He's a Belgian guy that works with Missouri Botanic Garden. And his partner in this endeavor is a guy named Vincent Doissart, who works for a French Institute of Conservation. And together, they have created a team in Central Africa where they've created what they call the Central African Orchid Shade House Network. And this is part of it right here. This is just one little section of it. It's actually held in a private residence where when Tariq is in Gabon, he stays there. He's almost like their son. They have a special house just for him, and all the orchids are cultivated there. And they have all kinds of species that have never been in the trade and are absolutely astonishing. For example, this is Erangus gracillima here on the left, which absolutely blew my mind. I saw the plants, but I didn't get to see it in bloom. The plant is actually reasonably sized Erangus with these gigantic, gorgeous spurred flowers on it. Someday I would really love to see this in person. There's other wonderful Aranges that are here. This is Aranges buardensis, excuse me, that has beautiful coloration. And again, it was wonderful to be able to walk around this this garden and see all of these plants. Even though not so many of them were blooming, it was still very exciting to see very unusual plants. Here in the same compound, the same garden, there was a small colony of these. This is a tiny miniature deer, and very, very sweet, very peaceful. It's about the size of a terrier with maybe a little bit longer legs. But this is an animal I didn't know existed. And apparently there's 2 species, and there's a small colony of them here in this particular garden. Tariq also graciously took the time to take me out into the field a little bit. And we actually had to take a boat across this bay that's in Gabon to this luxury resort. Now, resorts are very hard to come by in Gabon. It's actually not a tourist destination. You have to have an invitation to go to Gabon. If you show up without one, they'll literally turn you away and send you back where you came from at your expense. So if you decide you want to go to Gabon, make sure that you've got all of your papers in order for that. Anyway, we got on this boat across the bay and came to this amazing place. Here's a eulofia. I don't know what it is, but it was just growing in the grass on the side of the road here. This little jaunt actually cost a fair penny. It was the boat ride. They give you a welcome drink and an incredible meal as well. So this is Tariq and two of his team. Both of these guys have PhDs. This guy over here, Archange, is now the director of the herbarium, and John over here was our driver, but is a world-class botanist in his own right. So we came here actually to go into an adjacent forest to this resort to look for a rare plant that they needed to get germplasm from. And in the meantime, we also found some orchids. How about that? Look at these incredible juicy prawns. Most delicious meal of my life. I'm not kidding. As we were walking, this is literally along the beach. As we're walking along, I see these sprouts coming up out of the ground. Turns out that they're Gloriosa. And this shocked me because I always thought of this as like a forest kind of plant, something that climbs trees, but apparently it sprawls out on beaches. This is literally like 50 feet from the ocean. So that was a revelation as well. We're walking around in this forest. There were many different interesting angraecoids. This is a diaphananthe that, the flowers might not be the most showy, but it's one of these wonderful, delicate, crystalline, diaphanous kind of flowers. Not well captured in this photo, but it's really lovely to see them in person. Lots of interesting fauna as well, weird caterpillars. This is sort of what the forest looks like. If you look on the left, this was actually hanging in our faces. This is Vanilla africana that had literally fallen. The vine had fallen out of the tree and was literally at eye level. Sometimes orchids are laughing at us, and this is one case where I think we probably could have walked right by this, except that it fell in our face. You can see that some of the trees are massive with beautiful, beautiful buttress roots that dwarf the humans. You might wonder why I have this in this photo. This particular forest has a population of miniature elephants that live within it that are nocturnal. So we didn't see them. They're all hiding deep, deep in the forest. But apparently the elephants are incredibly important for the ecology in this place, and that most of the seeds of most of the fruit seeds that occur naturally in this forest have to pass through the stomach of an elephant in order to germinate. So these poops on the road are actually incredibly important. They also have in a sort of behind the National Herbarium in Gabon, they have another of their shade houses in a bit of disrepair. Looks like it needs a major overhaul. There were all kinds of fascinating plants in this place as well, including Lystrastrachus, so many things. This is I think this used to be Angraecum dorataphyllum. Now they've separated this into a new genus called Afropectinaria. Lovely, lovely little plant. In the same area is where Plectromynthus caudatus grows. I'm told that in Gabon it's actually the most common orchid. So it's lovely to see that. I just wanted to show this Rangeris one more time, and I'm hoping, oh gosh. So I had an addendum to this talk that was in my other PowerPoint presentation that was showing my previous trip, which interestingly was about a month and a half earlier than this one. I'm going to see if I can get in it, because I just would really like you to see it. You already missed quite a bit from the other talk.
It doesn't look like much, but those are the only ones that are paid members.
Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share again, and hopefully, yeah.
So draw 10. Let's time.
So one of the interesting things about South Africa, okay, here's the end of the last talk, is the seasonality of things. And you know, the World Orchid Conference was held, I think, at the very beginning of September. And so that trip had extremely different South African plants to see. What you're looking at here was an exhibit they did of potted, this is why I say they're reasonably easy to grow. These are Ceteriums that they did a sort of a native orchid fenbos display. And so it was very exciting to see these, and I do think these are very, very easily cultivated. And does anyone grow them in San Francisco area? I bet someone does. Probably Marnie. This was the Bartholina Bermaniana that was presented at that World Orchid Conference. And again, the fellow who owned this, I spoke with him, and he said that yes, it's been in that pot for 10 years and grows super well. It has a strange little leaf down at the bottom. Let's see. And we also got to see rhinoceroses on that particular trip. There's so much to see in Africa. I thought I'd give you guys a little eye candy. This was our 18-year-old ranger who is basically showing us rhinoceros poop, which doesn't smell and isn't nasty and dirty, but very, very nice guy who took us around. This was Pilanesberg National Park. We got to see great birds, such as this kingfisher, grebes. This is Michael Tibbs. He took me to see, probably most people when they go to South Africa want to see Disa uniflora. Mike has scoped out all of the habitats for this. And very near where he was living at the time, which was on a winery called Chamonix, there's this wonderful cottage with a waterfall behind it. You can rent this little cottage. I think I will one day. But in the waterfall are several Disa uniflora. Let's see if it will take me there. So if you look up into the waterfall, there are several little plants of the Disa uniflora in there. This was again late August, early September, so they weren't in bloom, but this is of course what they look like. And if you get to South Africa in December or January, you can see orchid displays such as this with hundreds and hundreds of Disa in full bloom. Also, if you go in August, September, the Botanic Garden maintains an incredible collection of South African orchids, all grown in pots. And by October, they were all done. There were none to see when I was there in late October. But really fabulous things to see. Again, the Botanic Garden is full of every kind of leptospermum and all kinds of amazing plants and beautiful birds. This is the double-collared sunbird that pollinates and collects nectar from these flowers. I wanted to show you a bit of the landscape. These are invasive plants that are in South Africa. On a trip I went to just to see wildflowers, more bugle lilies. And right around the corner from this, turned out there was an amazing nursery, Duckett's Nursery, which is a cymbidium grower extraordinaire. Now, I enjoyed seeing all the cymbidiums in bloom in late August, early September, but the real show was in the parking lot, where there were all of these wonderful jewel-like bulb plants. And this is something that I've just never seen anything like it anywhere in the world. Romuleas, Geiserises, Pomerias, just really, really extraordinary, exquisite plants. You hesitated to park in this parking lot because you were running over some of these jewels to get to your parking spot on days when they have big festivals like they did this particular day. I just want to end with, I am planning, I was going to go this fall, but of course COVID has put that off. But I am going to go next year. I might even go twice. So I'm planning to go probably in late August, early September, and also go to Madagascar. So if any of you are interested in coming along with me, Patricia de Robillard, who you saw earlier, has put together an amazing trip to Madagascar. And she's from Mauritius, but I think it'd be a really, really good time to see some amazing plants. The American Orchid Society has donated, well, not donated, we gave grants to 2 different organizations in Madagascar, on the eastern coast of Madagascar, that are protecting native forests that I would love to go visit. So I think that we have a chance to see something really extraordinary next year. So do let me know if you're interested. The other thing that I want to see, if I'm going to be on the continent again, is Namibia, which has this unbelievable, amazing landscapes, absolutely painted by usually these are all composite family, various kinds of African daisies. But even in September, when I was there for the World Orchid Conference, I was a little bit late to catch this. Again, this is the seasonality of things in Africa. But I think these landscapes are just astonishing. and it's definitely on my bucket list. So if it's on yours, let me know. We'll all go together. Just unbelievable. So with that, I close, and I hope that I've given you a new appreciation for what's on the African continent, and I look forward to going there again, hopefully with some of you with me.
Thanks, Tom.
That's
It was
Sure.
wonderful. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
many of us will be following up with you.
Very good.
That's great.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Is that your bird that we're hearing in the background?
Yeah, that's Celia. You want me to bring her over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Give me a minute. Please talk amongst yourselves.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.
That's there.
Beautiful. All right, folks. So think if there are any burning questions, we'll take a few questions, and then we're going to wrap up with the raffle. We'll pull 10 names for the $20 gift certificate codes for Tiny Jungle. What? Oh, you're starting. Joe's already started pulling them, so it's gonna wait. All right.
I have a question for Tom. I've been to Africa and Madagascar, and the hippopotamus actually killed one of the native young girls. And I was told that if you put lights on, they don't come. The hippopotamuses won't come near. We stayed in a little bungalow, and they didn't come near us. Did you find that?
Well, I didn't have any problems with hippos on this trip, but I'm told that when it's rainier and the hippos are, well, you know, this particular camp, as I said, is inside an oxbow lake. So there are, I think, many hippos that are in the area when it's wet. And so, no, but people always warn you about hippos, particularly if you're boating. They'll capsize your boat. They also say, I don't know how many of you have been to Colombia, but the Medellin area, Pablo Escobar had his own private zoo, and apparently the hippos escaped, and there's a population of them there, and they're actually quite destructive to people. So yeah, I didn't have any problem with hippos, but I understand how they can be real trouble. They say it's the most dangerous animal in Africa.
Yeah, we had to turn around. We were coming down on a boat, and a whole bunch of them were there, and they said we couldn't cross in front or anywhere in their path, otherwise they'd kill us. So we actually had to turn around and go back.
Wow, they actually told you that?
Yeah.
They're gonna kill you if you go this way.
Yeah, right. If you go in the path of the hippos, they'll attack the boat.
Yeah, well, again, they come out of the water at night. Their skin is very sensitive, which is why they sit in the water during the day. But at night they come out and forage. So they're mostly herbivorous. So they do like a foresty kind of area to roam around in.
Any other questions?
You see Celia?
There she is.
Hi there.
She's very shy. She doesn't know. And all of these faces looking back at her, it must look like a peacock or something.
Hi, Celia.
The beast of many heads. She doesn't want to be friendly right now. Oh well.
How long have you had her?
I got Celia right after my mother passed. So it's been about 13, 14 years.
Oh.
Does she speak?
She tried. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Celia. Oh, there. Yeah.
Hello? 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 Oh, well, she's not going to do it now. I've been trying for years to get her to say, I love you. And one time, back when I was still living in Virginia, I used to have a little a playpen set up for her next to the couch. And one night, I was asleep on the couch, and she came over and ripped all the buttons off my shirt. And when I woke up to find my shirt completely ruined, she said, Araru.
Oh.
Araru. Araru. I didn't do that. She's a little bit.
It was a fantastic, Tom. I really enjoyed your talk. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I'm so glad. It had a few problems, and hopefully I can fix those. But I'm glad that it was well received despite all my mistakes.
Very nice, very nice. Thanks for all the travels.
I'm an incredibly lucky guy. I am absolutely lead a blessed existence. So this is part of it, and if I can give back a little bit, then by all means. And seriously, I hope some of you will come with me next year. I think it's going to be an extraordinary trip. Maybe we can even take in Mauritius. Those of you that have a little extra time on your hands.
We all have it now.
Yeah, lots of time.
What do you say, John Davy? Will you invite us all to Mauritius as well?
Sure.
Yes, you're most welcome. We're COVID-free at the moment, so come along.
Wear your mask. If you're
Once we're quarantine free. Huh?
Can I ask John Davy, what's the name of your orchid business?
I don't have a business, but I've got a Facebook page which is called Dodo Orchid.
Okay, thank you.
I've put a couple of live shows on that during the confinement, and it's my collection which I show on there. I don't sell any. I try and make a point of not selling and trying to keep away from commerce.
Okay, thank you very much.
Didn't know that.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, oh, Jen. Oh, okay. I read that. Okay, so Joe's been busy in the background here drawing names from the bowl. So I'm just going to wrap it up with the raffle. The winners are Cecil Bullard, Karen Olson, Tom Tickford, A. Klum, Jerry Bond, Jen Pulakis, Glenn Finch, John Rushworth. Congratulations, that might be your first orchid, right?
Yeah.
Dave Hermeyer and Tyler Curry.
Yay.
Wonderful. Thanks.
So let me ask: is this how you get people to attend? You put their names in a hat and then they get a free orchid?
No, you were the draw card.
Yeah, I think it was you, but no, we do an opportunity table, but because it's a little more complicated, one of the vendors, Tiny Jungle, has donated $20 gift codes. So so we've been handling the shipping. So anybody can get on there online, buy a plant, apply the $20 gift code. We pay the shipping. Yeah, and it's you just have to be a paid member, so it should incentivize. But we're doing fine.
That's awesome.
So thanks, everyone. Always good to see everyone. And
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Let me know if there's anything you want to know.
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Night. Celia says hi or goodbye. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.